right?
Yeah,
Just thinking,
yeah.
hang on a second, are you trying to tell me what I know but forgot or didn't realize? It's like kind of smelling the roses. And then what really hurts me more is the fact that you said that you can back it up by actually having that evidence of conversation with students who
That's
felt
right.
they didn't. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So your life, what was it like when you grew up? Because today you helped the 2020 Brent
Young Ambassadors,
Ambassadors competition and stuff, and that must have been a really proud moment.
Absolutely.
Amongst all of the other amazing accolades that you've achieved over your life, and you're a married man and you've got time, etc., etc. But what was your growing up like?
It's so interesting because in the face of it all, I had a good childhood in the
Bless
face
you.
of it, but that's because my mother went over and above for myself and my two sisters.
God bless.
She really
God bless.
compensated for the challenges we had growing up. So as a child, I was bullied at primary school.
Wow.
The bullying was it was significant enough for me not to remember what it was.
Wow.
So
Such a deep question.
it's actually I laugh, but it was significant enough for my parents and the boy who bullied me, his parents, to come into school on a regular basis. But if you asked me what happened when I was bullied, I actually can't remember.
So you used to block it out.
I've clearly blocked it out, right? And also, myself and my sisters grew up in a house of domestic violence, and if you put all of that into a pot, that recipe doesn't often spell one of success.
No. But just before we continue, just in case there's other listeners who are listening tonight and they feel that they are possibly in a similar position here as to Julian and many of my other guests have been, do reach out. It's not the end. The proof of having this discussion with Julian tonight is evidence within itself. So do get help. And the best way to get that assistance is to touch base with your teachers so they can communicate to the relevant authorities. If you're having any problem with children or parents who are having a problem with their children being bullied, please do reach out. And Julian is living evidence of there is light at the end of the tunnel. So please, I hope that helps. Please do step forward. Sorry, Julian, please do
But not to
continue.
divert too much, I suppose the reason why I've mentioned those things, and if anyone kind of tracks back on my prior interviews, you'll notice I've not talked about that much. And the reason why I've decided to talk about it more is because parents of our students have told me that their children are victims of bullying and another issues within the home.
Oh, no.
And I became conscious of the fact that those kids didn't know that the guy who founded the company that they go to classes with every week can share their experience, right?
Wow. God bless you.
And so I felt it's perhaps necessary for me to do that because I want other children and I want other parents out there to know that the reality of it is parents come to us as a youth organisation
Yes.
and they confide in us because oftentimes they don't feel that they're in a safe space with local authorities or with teachers, so they come to who they feel they are safe to talk to, and it took us aback. It took us aback a number of times because we were like, well, we teach kids entrepreneurship. We're not qualified to talk about these types of issues, but they felt that that they were in a safe space with us, and we listened and we advised as best we could, and we signposted. So
and I assume that you obviously have since then taken more advantage of actually getting your senior trainees.
Absolutely,
into
So
the vein of understanding.
all of the things around safeguarding and
Brilliant.
child protection, all of our teachers have gone through that training and have had that background.
God bless.
And I guess for parents or anyone out there listening, to find wherever that safe space is, if it's a friend, if it's an organisation you're working with, if it's a tutor, whoever that safe space is, or wherever that safe space is, do talk because it can help.
So one of the key things that I want to clarify here is that Julian's never really taken that to the public arena before, so for which I thank you for being live on air and sharing that information. But I think I've known Julian for the best part of 3 years, maybe 4 years now, And I think that's also because he's not really a hand-me-out guy. He really does stand out, what we call it a standout in the crowd person who actually is not looking for hand-me-outs. And he's never really shared, I believe, this softness, this other element of his life, but he's done it only for the resonance of helping the children going forward. So I think that's very commendable. Joel, just to think about this a bit further, Julian. Now, your journey, from wherever your roots were in Halsden, you've said it yourself, but I just want to touch on this a little bit. What were you like as a teenager? Because, come on, you've got such a robustness about you right now. This relentless energy. God blessed, by the way. And if anybody in this listeners, because you always know this as the Inspired Tribe on the Empower Hour show with myself, Sukhi Wahiwala, that I do talk about God. And if you can, just replace the word God if you do have an issue with belief in the entity, because God is just a name. And the reality, it is the universal order, and in the sense of a universal connection of energy somewhere else. So it's all the same. I do not separate that conversation. So I hope that helps. So in that context, what was your teenage like? We get nitty gritty in the first half. Come on, what was it like?
I was a cool teenager, man.
I want some secrets here.
Honestly, and not just for me, but for lots of people in my generation. The culture of music and fashion, hip hop and kind of reggae and our culture from the Caribbean and from Africa really gave us a safety net, and it gave us a place to identify with ourselves. It gave us a pride in who we were and where we'd come from, and I was steeped in that as a teen. I'm British. I have a red passport, but if you would ask me back then, I was Jamaican.
Yeah, I get that.
And
truly understand
and I was proud to be so. And it was mainly because, in those days, and arguably it's that the issue still exists. You weren't sure if Britain was proud to have you.
Yeah,
and
I get that.
And I think that's changing. But at the time, it was a little bit precarious. So you kind of had to go where you felt you were most at home. And, we were British, but we grew up in households. We were spoken to in Caribbean or African accents. We ate Afro-Caribbean food.
Yes.
And we listened to Afro-Caribbean music. So for all intents and purposes, that's who we were. But, conversely, we were as British as the next child. So I'm saying that to say that there was a richness in culture and diversity that we grew up with, which I think is pretty unique to our generation.
Yeah, I truly respect that.
Yeah, and I think that's shared by lots of other kind of people from different varying ethnic backgrounds. I'm sure people can connect with that. But in terms of that, really gave me a foundation as a teenager. It gave me it gave me an identity. It gave me a strength, actually, and it gave me a place that I could go to, whether it was music, fashion, culture, food, whatever. It gave me a place that I could learn about myself and develop who was Julian, who am I, whether it was through my parents, whether it was through my culture, and that was, it was a real gift.
This is it's so easily said by yourself, Julian, but this is a core part of every child growing up. So a thought to yourself. I mean, you work with thousands, and I mean thousands of children. You guys have assisted, if not touched, their lives in a positive way. 15,000 plus, and that's it. I don't think that's the correct count. That's probably more. And it's increasing every single year with God's blessings. My question to yourself is that, do you find, now you and I have had this discussion many years ago, that identity is core.
Yeah,
we've got to have that identity. We've just touched on it now. How are you finding, not after you've worked with the children, but before you've worked with that child, how have you found a sense of identity in them? Because is it a good sense of identity? You just said, Britain, it definitely is my home, but was Britain ready to accept me as who I am? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And obviously that definitely that without a doubt has changed, and the hypothesis is completely different. But my question to yourself is that, how have you found children? And I definitely know when the children have worked with you, their sense of identity is a lot clearer and more robust. How are you finding children? Do you find that is a challenge, and is it core to the interchange, please.
What's interesting is I think kids nowadays love being British, whether they know it or not, because there's quite a distinct, the characteristics of British kids are quite distinct, and they celebrate that. They immerse themselves in that, and I think that's great because it makes them unique in the face of, if you look at kids from around the world, right? You can tell the British kid, and I think that's a great thing. But in terms of their own personal identities, most of them wouldn't really know where to start, if I'm honest. A lot of them are lost, and a lot of them are searching for an identity, and they'll find it in the YouTuber or the Instagram influencer, or maybe a positive role model in the family, maybe. But in terms of this introspectiveness that we spoke about off air earlier on, because that's not really taught in school, being introspective, kids and young people don't necessarily have the tools to work out who they are as individuals.
Wow, that's just astounding. I can only look back at myself, and I think I had a very clear sense of who I was, and that was gifted to the fact that we had such a dynasty when it comes to our family name here in the Peterborough environment. We've got people from all around the world listening tonight. We have as far as Australia all through to North America, and the Africas, etc., and India in specific, in China. So the question I've got in my head is that this is definitely an identity issue across the globe, because we call it the MTV generation, taking that, no disrespect to MTV, but it's kind of giving one culture across the whole planet, isn't it? So I'm very proud of my dual culture, my Indian, Sikh, British, Punjabi culture, and then my also English British culture as well. And my question is, the generation for tomorrow I'm talking about, do you find it as distinct as that, or do you find them a little bit lost?
In terms of cultural heritage, I think it is stronger than most would believe. But that's because yet their parents still retain some of that cultural identity
of our generation.
Yeah. So because we grew up quite proud of where our parents came from, because most of our parents they weren't born here. No. And so that identity rubs off on our children, and if they still have a connection with their grandparents, then they have that.
Yes.
But I suppose the difference, however, is that the British culture has assimilated in a good way, I think, lots of different cultures, right? So I think the most popular British dish it's an Indian dish.
Yeah, it's still
right?
chicken tikka masala.
Chicken tikka masala, right? And so and the most popular form of music is rap. So and the slang kids use, it's derived from Jamaican patois, and so I think if you think about the British culture, as it were,
it's like a melting pot.
It's a melting pot, and so there's a richness in that, but kids don't necessarily know how to translate that into something that they can benefit from for their future development,
to progress themselves.
Yeah.
And then what would you reflect, because we're going to talk a bit more about Ultra Kids and that program that you run, the Ultra Education program, a bit more in the second half. So if anybody's enjoying what they're listening today, because I love this particular slot every single week. It really does give me some sense of understanding in life, and the caliber of the individuals that I have as my guests is really a blessing. So how do you think you as an individual possibly differed or resembled the children that you work with today? Because you grew up similar to myself in the 70s and the 80s, right? And then through the 90s we kind of hit a little level of maturity,
I'm the same as they are. I see myself in them. I resonate with them. I remember what it was like to be in primary school and secondary school, finding yourself, trying to maintain a level, trying to do well in school, keep parents happy, keep your, social standing together. I remember what it was like, and I guess I benefited because I I had a scholarship to a good school when I was a teenager, which differentiated me from a lot of my peers, and also because I had an early intervention with entrepreneurship when I was 18, which again differentiated me from not all but most of my peers. So those two things are what gave me the advantage, which meant that I didn't become that statistic that my friend, was pointed to.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right at the start, yes. So going on to that context of your first entrepreneurial journey, please help. What was that first entrepreneurial journey?
Sure.
You've been multiply in the game, and not all of them have been what we call financial successes, even though they've been a successes in hindsight. Please.
So when I was 18, at the time, my girlfriend, she had just qualified from the London College of Fashion, and we were watching a TLC video, and I believe it was Left Eye was wearing a spray painted dungaree, and she said, "Oh, I could make that," and I thought, "Wow, okay." And then in my mind, I kind of reflected on the fact that my friends and I, in order to look fly back then, we had to spend a lot of money on clothes, right?
Yes.
Most of it was imported, cost a lot of money, and it dawned on me that if she could make the clothing, I said, "Oh, how much could you make it for?" She said, "Oh, maybe 15 or 20 pounds." And I thought in my mind, well, you could sell that for about 100 at least. And so that kind of sparked this idea that we could start a fashion company. So she would design the clothes. She taught myself and my friends, about 6 or 7 of us, to make the clothes.
Oh, wow.
We had sewing machines and overlockers and fabric and a 1-bedroom flat in Stonebridge. We were all 17, 18 years old, and we started a fashion company. What
an inspiration. How powerful is that, children, if you're listening tonight, and parents? I mean, you really want to get your children to be connected with the Ultra kids here. This is exactly what the gentleman here, Julian, is the founder for. So how did that first venture go?
It went well. I mean, it was interesting. It was our first engagement with making money. None of us had ever had jobs before or started businesses before.
I understand.
We didn't even consider it. We didn't even think about it as a business. It was just a thing to do, an opportunity, something that we loved and enjoyed, that we could bring to everyone else. We could explore our creativity. We could explore our hustle. And, it kept us out of trouble for a good few summers, if I'm honest. And we made some money from it. So it was good.
Win, win, win. You won because it was a great hustle. It was enjoyable. The community won because it was keeping you out of trouble, and then also the person who purchased your product won.
Absolutely,
as well, right? Yeah, this is the kind of stuff you teach them.
Yeah.
Now, would you believe the time is just going like this? We have 2 minutes left, Julian. That's it. So, is there anything specific before we cut for the first break, and join us back, if you don't mind, back at 7:30 sharp? We will go live, but before we go into that section, we've still got another minute. So, when did you actually start get the feeling that entrepreneurship itself? Now, in my era, we never called it that. In my age group, and with similar age, so we were just simply calling it business. Yeah, being in business, right? So the reality is that when I spoke to my father about this, he said, "You're in business. You're a businessman. That's all you are, a business person." So the question I ask yourself is that how did those learning journeys actually make a difference in your life? And we're down to that last minute, man.
Well, as a child, I was an introvert. I lacked confidence. I told you earlier on about my how I was, my experience as a young person. So I was introverted. I was really unconfident. But I would say entrepreneurship turned my life around, and the experience of entrepreneurship pretty much saved me from a life that would extend that feeling of introvertedness, extend that feeling of unconfidence, and which is the reason why I champion entrepreneurship today.
Do you know what? I'm not joking. I think I'm having a beautiful conversation here tonight on the Empower Hour with Julian Hall, the founder and the actual main director of Ultra Kids and Ultra Education. Please tune back in at 7:30. It's the Empower Hour on Salaam Radio. We're going to take a short break. See you soon.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
Where can you get high quality and low prices? Amar Food Store and Halal Meat in Lincoln Road, Triangle is the place to go. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. Also send money to Pakistan absolutely free. We have all top brands at special offers, offer free customer parking and provide a free local delivery service. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call us on 01733 687 374. High in quality, low in prices.
Peterborough just got a whole lot tastier. Five Lads Flame Grilled Peri Peri Chicken is now open. Bring your family and friends to Peterborough's first HMC meat selling restaurant. We are experts in grilled chicken, lamb chops and gourmet lamb and beef burgers. Our healthy options include fresh salads and fresh grilled vegetables. Fresh, clean and healthy grilled food with 4 different flavours. Lemon and herb, medium, hot and extra hot. 5-star hygiene rating. Eat in, order and collect or order for delivery on Deliveroo. Follow 5 Lads Peterborough on Facebook and Instagram 5 Lads. 15 Cowgate, Peterborough, PE1 1LZ. Call 01733 56 22 87. Open 7 days a week, 12 to 11 p.m.
Al-Murad Tiles. With over 70 stores nationwide, we are now open in Peterborough. Up to 50% discount offers now on. Largest selection of tiles. Full bathroom suites from only £189. Paint. LED lighting. Laminate flooring from only £7.99. Over 1,000 designs of wallpaper in stock. We have everything you need. Come and visit us at 193 Fengate, Peterborough, PE1 5BH. Or call us on 01733 34 58 47. Al-Murad Tiles, now open.
Insure 24/7 is a community-based insurance brokerage offering competitive premiums and a great service. Taxis, properties and businesses, we cover them all. Call us on 01733 856699 or visit our new office at 304 Lincoln Road. Insure 24/7. We've got you covered. Insure 24/7 is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
There's a million choices available for dining out in Leeds.
But if you want something special, there's only one name to remember.
Mumtaz Leeds.
Relax in our newly refurbished Riverside restaurant.
Enjoy exquisite home cooking from our brand new menu. Upgrade to the Mumtaz Leeds experience.
And the price? Well, we're better value than ever before.
Mumtaz Leeds, Chadwick Street, Leeds, LS10 1PJ. Call 0113 242 4211.
Free car parking available.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته وبسم الله. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدوامها وإن قل. That the most beloved action to Allah is those which are regular, even if little.
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salaam Radio.
Welcome everybody. Good evening once again to the second half of the Empower Hour with myself, Sukhi Wahiwala, and Salaam Radio. This evening we have our amazing guest, and he's such a truly inspiring individual who's touched nearly 15,000 plus lives with entrepreneurship and education. I have to say this open on air and live on air. His name's Julian Hall. You know, this guy should be Julian Hall MBE or Julian Hall OBE. And I'm telling you, if the government's listening in any which way, we need to be respecting and seeing individuals like this. So he's definitely not going to agree with me, but I'm afraid, you know, your humility precedes you. Welcome back, Julian.
Thank you, Sukhi.
So, Julian, we were talking just before we left about how things have kind of progressed over the years with identity and the fact that we've now become this communal identity, which is true. How possibly, you know, we said that were we ready to accept that we were British, but the question then came deeper with was Britain ready for us as well? You know, were they ready to accept us? And I think that's definitely moved on in the years, and I believe there is that oneness. Definitely there, as I through my years have never had those sort of challenges. That doesn't mean it wasn't there. It's just I haven't had those challenges, and I've been found myself very gratified and blessed by that. So moving forward, I'm more interested now in what Ultra Education does. So you've helped thousands of children, but I know there's an inspiration. You were also a banker from my conversation. You know, come on, you've been 10 years. You know, somebody came from Harlesden who you said yourself, who didn't even realize when one of your friends, school friends actually said, oh, you haven't done too badly from somebody from Harlesden. That hit you in the heart, and it sort of like touched you to inspire you to start to look to create change in the children of tomorrow. But there was a journey. I mean, you keep playing down yourself. I've been speaking to you so many times, and you don't ever really say, yeah, I've done that, yeah, I've done that. You know, it's like getting blood out of a stone, audience. You know, Tribe, you want to push him here. You know, he's such a humble guy. Julian, please tell us. You know, you had a lovely journey. You got a scholarship in school. You know, you ascended yourself out of that system. You had a mum that just basically forgot herself for you and your sisters, and really laid down everything you ever needed in life, right? And that's so beautiful to hear. You got into banking. How did that happen?
So after I had finished running the business when I started at 18, when that had run its course, I then started to pull at every business model I could think of. But back then there was no internet, there was no business support, there were no coaches.
Most definitely not.
So nothing I did worked for the long term. So I thought, let me just do what my mum told me to do and go and get a job like a normal person.
Go and get a job. Yeah.
So the other thing I was really passionate about was tech. So when I was, 5, 6, 7 years old, I was always tinkering on my old Commodore 64 computers and all the rest of it. So I was really comfortable with tech. So I, got a job as a kind of computer engineer after all of the businesses had failed. But because of the kind of entrepreneurial experience that I'd had, I learned things really quickly. I could sell myself really well.
Wow.
I could process stuff in a way maybe that others couldn't. So what ended up happening is I ended up getting headhunted from one job to the next. And I remember when I got the call from my agent, who gave me my first investment banking job, and it doubled my salary overnight.
Wow.
And all of this, I had no degree, so really I shouldn't have got into investment banking. But I had a career. I'd worked for a number of the major investment banks in the city and in Canary Wharf, and there was no reason for me to leave. Lots of my friends who I just went out to dinner with the other night are still in investment banking, and they're all doing really well. I suppose the difference for me was I had that early experience with entrepreneurship, so I remember what it was like to run my own, to do my own thing, to be my own boss.
Yeah.
And once you've had that feeling, for any entrepreneur out there listening, it's hard to replace that feeling with a job. No matter how great the job is, it's hard to replace that feeling.
You get a bug.
So
it suits you or it doesn't suit you, because having a job really suits some psychometrics as well, as in what we classify as the compliant or the soft nature, the stability nature. Still, that's still pretty good to be in a position like that. But if you are the budding entrepreneur that you truly are, as in yourself, Julian, then obviously not having a job was the best choice for you at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I celebrate employment of any kind. Entrepreneurs need people who can actually do the thing that they're dreaming of, right? And they need people to work for them and do all of that. And without that team, the entrepreneurs just can't execute. So, it is a team effort. So, we celebrate that. For me, though, I was just wired slightly differently, as every entrepreneur kind of feels. So around 2000, after still tripping over failed business models, I bought a small .com from a guy in East London, actually. It was in a chip shop. It was just a really odd thing, thinking back at it.
Yeah, you walk back into the chip shop and say, and you end up walking out buying your bag of chips and the fish, and also a .com.
A .com company, right? So I had done that, and this guy had used offline marketing to promote this online business. And I tried that because he said, this is what you do and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, this is really hard work. This online thing, I've got a tech background. Surely I could use Google or use the internet to market this business. So hop, skip, and a jump, I was forced to learn Google marketing, or SEO back then. So we're talking kind of 2001, 2002.
Yeah, that is the budding time of it. Yes,
and that
absolutely.
was when it was, just coming out of the shadows.
Nobody knew what you were talking about.
Nobody knew at the time. So I self-taught. So on evenings and weekends and on my train rides into work, I'd go into the deep dark forums of the web and learn about all this stuff. And a few years later, this business was doing as well as my day job.
You know, on anybody's listening, the relentlessness, the resilience, and the sheer spirit to want to progress is the key, because the universe opens doors, and you've just heard it there yourself, and a full-time job, and then turning around in between all the spaces, on the train, on the calls, in the evenings, trying to study beyond their means, which is that urge, it's that ignition, it's what we're trying to ignite human life for. I mean, just to keep growing and learning every single day. Sorry about that. Think back to Julian.
So it's interesting, you know, my cousins and my aunt particularly, they joke about the fact that whilst my mother was pregnant with me, she was still taking her exams.
Oh wow! So that's so now you know why you get it.
So now
from.
I know why I've maybe got this.
It was infused
this
into his
thirst
genes
for learning. Yeah,
yes.
maybe.
Well, bless you for that. God bless her as well.
Yeah. So where are we? So this side hustle, as it were, was creeping up to matching my investment banking salary. And a colleague of mine who I grew up with, who was also born in Harlesden, and he was doing quite well for himself. He was working for a company called DoubleClick, which was just about to be acquired by Google. So he was in the industry, and he said, we caught up for drinks one day, and he said, asked me what I was doing, and he said, wow, he said, you know, if you can do that for other companies, we should start our own consultancy. So we did.
Wow, that early.
That early. So for about 3 years, we ran the consultancy on evenings and weekends. You know, we bagged a few clients, and then in 2006 we raised money to start our own digital agency in Shoreditch.
How blessed. That is so powerful. Not only is that raising capital at such a young age, but also young era in time when it wasn't really the said thing to go and find yourself an angel investment. These connotations and these structures and frameworks that are available to our children today were not there.
No, they
investment
weren't.
bankers were very seldom did they invest in a small startup. It became a new thing around the 1999-2000 mark, and it started to progress. So well done for that.
Yeah. So, and I think the thing that made that business different, I remember, was I loved it. I was really passionate about marketing, because what it actually did was it married my tech ability that I developed in the corporate world, but also my creative ability, because you had to be creative on the web and online and different things, and creating content and blogs and this and that. So I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed kind of winning the Google game, right?
I was going to say, it sounded like the Google game, because we was going to say it's like winning and trying to break the system,
algorithm.
The algorithm.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed mastering.
So it's the challenge.
I enjoyed mastering the process
and the
effectively,
challenge,
and the challenge. And I enjoyed doing it for other companies because it was gobbledygook to them, and I just had an ability to kind of take a complex system and break it down into simple parts, which is actually what I've done for entrepreneurship for kids. So we'll go on to that. So I was kind of training my psyche to do that, years before I started Ultra Education. And so that was kind of like 2.0 of my entrepreneurial journey. And, we were very early. We were, we were the only, so it was myself and 2 other black guys in Shoreditch. There were no other black people in Shoreditch at that time. And we were probably the first black-owned digital agency in Europe, I think.
Wow. Such an inspiration.
Yeah, I've said it enough and no one's challenged it, so I'm going to stick with it.
No, I truly say that, yes, absolutely.
But what started to happen and what kind of led me into schools and education was people would call us up and say, oh, can you come and talk about your story? Because, you were all in safe, secure investment banking jobs. Why would you come and do this digital thing? Because it was still quite early. People, digital was shrouded in mystery. Why would you do this? Why would you be in Shoreditch doing digital and you had safe, secure jobs? What they were kind of asking in between the lines is, why weren't you a musician, an athlete, or an entertainer? These 3 black guys, why were you doing this? And why weren't you doing the things that we're used to you doing?
Now that's an amazing discussion. Sorry to stop you there. You're a brilliant flow there, but that's such a valid and important point. It's about the stereotyping in somewhat to an extent. So not only have you assisted so many thousands of people, children in entrepreneurship. You've also assisted with respect to shatter the stereotype of that era and that time. So God bless you for that as well. And just a quick hello, hi, Hyacinth Myers, just in case we forget. She's saying, great to see you, Julian and Sukhi. You're great on Facebook.
Thank you,
Live
Hyacinth.
there, Hyacinth.
Thank you.
And she actually, Hyacinth, I'll talk about that in a moment, but she actually took you, she had her son, Kwame, and he came over and he's done Ultra Education.
He has indeed.
About 3 years ago.
Absolutely.
And that was in Leighton, if I'm correct. Yes,
correct,
actually, you mentioned it. So thank you very much, Hyacinth. We'll talk about that in a mo. So going back to where you were talking just a moment ago of challenging the status quo to an extent, please, how did success follow?
Some people were quite open about that. They said, look, Julian, we'd like you to come and talk to our kids because what you're doing isn't stereotypical, and we'd like to show our kids alternate perspectives on what work can look like, right? Because you run your own business and you run it in an industry which isn't common to to what everyone expects. So it's refreshing, right? So that was great. I was happy to go and do that. So for the next couple of years, alongside running the agency, I would go in and go everywhere from primary schools to universities and talk to students, and I built up a concerning picture over time.
Oh, wow.
And what I realized was there was a growing ambition for kids and young people to become entrepreneurs, because at this point, they all knew Mark Zuckerberg was a young cat. They all knew that, the internet didn't matter how old you were. All of these companies were being set up by, lots of young people.
Level the playing field.
And things like The Apprentice and Dragon's Den were making entrepreneurship accessible to the masses. So now kids and young people wanted to become entrepreneurs. However, there was no one having a conversation with them about that. Schools weren't, parents weren't. So when the entrepreneur, i.e. me, would go in, and other entrepreneurs who have gone into schools and done this will attest to the same experience, you realize there was a massive disconnect between what kids were being taught, if at all, in school about business and entrepreneurship, and what was happening in the real world.
Yes, so that makes a massive difference. So basically, it's about, if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, you were taught theoretical entrepreneurship or business, and that wasn't really what it was like in the real world, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Got it.
And so I thought to myself, wow, if the kinds of questions you're asking me means that you are miles away, you're 10 years behind what's actually happening in so Shoreditch was kind of cutting edge entrepreneurship stuff, right?
No doubt, yes.
And kids in school were decades behind, and the reason it concerned me is because I thought, I managed to benefit from entrepreneurship, but these kids aren't going to benefit from it if they don't have some form of guidance, they don't have some advantage. If they don't have some kind of advantage, some network, something to rely on, they're going to fail like the entrepreneurs of today are failing. This 9 out of 10 failure rate.
There's a statement that says it's basically, if you can't see it,
you can't be it.
You can't achieve it. Yes, you can't be it.
Correct.
So that's principally what you're saying. I mean, what you're saying is that if they can't see an alternative to what they want to achieve, because not even entrepreneurship's for everybody, but not also employment's for everybody.
Yeah.
There's a mix of both. Yeah. And whatever it is for that person is right for that person. But at least you're leveling the playing field and saying there is an option for you if you want to be an entrepreneur.
I suppose our philosophy rose a little bit above whether it was entrepreneurship or employment. It was more about doing what you love. So we define an entrepreneur to a 10-year-old as someone who does what they love and they make money from it. And it's just a simple definition, right? Now, if you have a job that you love, hand on heart, that you spring out of bed for every morning, then that's amazing.
It's like, woof,
that's amazing. That's great. And there are some people who have jobs like that.
Yeah.
Are they, but they usually come from the best schools in the country. They usually have, great networks from, privileged backgrounds. So I'm talking about the other 99% of kids.
Because home carries into your day life, right? Stuff at home has to come through. So this brings me to that conversation. I mean, we were just talking a moment ago about Hyacinth and her son, basically. I just want to, talk a little bit about that if I can, because I can't believe that we've only got 6 minutes left. I said it'll go fast, didn't I? So Kwame, he spoke about it specifically. You may not remember Kwame specifically, but I think you did. You remember the conversation in Leighton. But how specifically is Ultra Kids, or Ultra Kids is the product, entrepreneurs and Ultra Education? So how does this help? Because there must be people here listening tonight, as inspired as I'm feeling by listening to you. The Inspired Tribe must want to get involved and help. How can they get hold of Julian Hall to start with, and then we'll talk a little bit about that?
So I'm available on all social media platforms. If you type in Julian Hall or you type in Ultra Education, you can connect with us. Somebody will connect back. So we teach kids entrepreneurship in schools. We work with directly with parents, so we do one-to-one tuition with parents, and we work with councils and local authorities and housing associations, and we'll run free clubs in across term time or in the holiday periods. And I guess what we're looking for is for people just to spread the word about what we do. If you think your school, that your child's school needs some entrepreneurship, then we are the best in the country at delivering entrepreneurship in the curriculum to young people. So, do recommend us in.
Now, the honest truth is that you guys have won awards, and I know awards per se for Ultra Education, as in you really value them, but you don't really portray them as a big thing for yourself because you're that humility. But for the children, it must
our
be
kids
changing.
have won awards.
Yes.
So, it's one thing the business winning awards, but what's more amazing for me personally is that our kids have won awards. So one of our young people won Mentee of the Year award just recently. One of our kids is...
Hang on a second. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, you've just overwritten that really quickly there. I'm sorry, Julian, but one of your children has just won Mentee of the Year award.
Correct, yeah.
Now, what age?
Well, she's been with us for quite some time now. I started working with her when she was about 19 or 20. She's now in her early 20s.
And she's I can't believe this. This is just true testament to what your actual vision and
look her up. Her name's Khadija Abdul Hamid. She's on Twitter as Mentee of the Year, actually.
Can you say her name again, please?
Khadija Abdul Hamid.
So Khadija
Abdul Hamid.
Khadija Abdul Hamid.
Yeah.
So on social media
platforms? On social media, she's on Twitter. She is Mentee of the Year. But you can Google her and she'll come up. Yeah, she won Mentee.
Well done. Is what I'm going to say to Khadija. Now, I do apologise if I got it wrong there, Khadija. Just think I'm a silly man and say thank you very much. But there's more. Mentee of the Year. I mean, I can remember in one of our promos we've used. You've got children who are like, what? They don't look best part of 9, 10, 12 years old?
Yeah, so we start from 7. So we've got kids who are 7, 8 years old who are running businesses. One of our kids Tegan is now maybe 10. She's written 5 books. So we've got authors. Yeah.
5 books?
Yeah, and she's been on stage with Tony Robbins and she's doing amazingly well.
God bless. Yeah. God bless her. Absolutely
and,
amazing.
Another one of our kids, Omari, he's the youngest vegan chef in the UK.
I remember watching that video.
He's being featured all over the shop. One of our kids, Alex Phillips, had a feature in Forbes late last year. The list goes on. I suppose for parents out there listening, the most common bit of feedback we get from parents is that their kids are now more confident.
Wow. That's just beautiful. May that blessed work continue. Now, I know that there are individuals, it saddens me to say this, that their children are absolutely brilliant. Brilliant children. And I mean academically as well. But they sadly can't afford this kind of an education, even though it's backed by housing associations, etc. So if you're listening and you know of your local housing association that could do with this kind of attention and fairness, please get in touch with Ultra Kids and Ultra Education and Julian directly so that you can actually come and talk to them so they can bring this education to the local area. And if you want to also be one of the trainers and one of the speakers or one of the educators, get in touch as well so that you can bring that to your local area as well. But there was something you would bring into the market, and you were talking about it very, very shortly, that you mentioned that if parents out there may want to assist and, in essence, sponsor another child?
Yeah,
How
so
would they
we
go about
have
that?
a number of parents at the moment, not parents, we have a number of people at the moment who are sponsoring children who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it onto our programs. So if that sounds like something you'd like to gift a child, be it a family member or someone in the community or a child at your school, then, you know, it's all anonymous. You know, the information is safe with us. But it's an amazing way to help improve their life chances, and you know, parents are immensely grateful for the work we do. A lot of it is one-to-one, or it's in small groups, and it really does transform the lives of their child and just opens their mind to what's possible.
And can I also ask a question? This is probably me personally. Yes, Sukhi Wahiwala asking you a question. So, what does that look like as in funds? I mean, a parent might be thinking, yes, I do want to help another child who's less, able to get onto that ladder. So the question is that what does that look like? Is there a kind of a fee?
I mean, we're talking about a couple of £100 per term to sponsor a child onto one of our programs.
Onto one of the programs. And that is so achievable. That is so achievable and attainable. May God bless you for that. That's definitely.
Thank you.
So in this context, if you would like to help in any way, and this is not about the sales, and this is about local community, this is about our next generation. We were talking about the ultra kids of the future. Please reach out as much as you possibly can. So on that context, do you kind of have children who really shine and sit a bit like a scholarship, like a ultra scholarship, where they actually sit there but they're definitely ready to be sponsored by somebody? So without giving their names, and of course, what sort of things are they shining with? You know, have you got any ideas of individuals who are sitting there who just want sponsoring?
Yeah, so what we start with is their passion. So again, you know, we define an entrepreneur as someone who does what they love and they make money from it. So we start with that child's passion. And the reason why kids love what we do is because we're just opening up the thing that they already love. So whether they love gaming, YouTubing, reading books, football, ballet, whatever it is, there's a business model behind each and every one of those things.
Truly.
And all we do is expose that and get them to extend their creative ability into that passion. And so it's really engaging, and we now are able to show them examples of other kids, right, who are, you know, just like them, look like them, talk like them, whatever, who might be doing similar businesses. So they're inspired by their peers. And we can share with parents the journey of other parents. You know, we've got a WhatsApp group of a couple of hundred parents who are supporting each other on a regular basis and sharing stories and supporting their children. And so, you know, people in the last year have commented and said to me, it feels like Ultra is creating a movement.
Yeah, God bless the Ultra movement.
And that really touched me, because that wasn't what I set out to do, but people feel like it's a movement towards empowering young people, empowering children at an early age to help to show them what's possible, especially in this era where we don't know what's coming up in the future of work and the future of jobs because of, you know, tech and all the rest of it. We know that, and even schools would admit, the education system is lacking in that regard, and it needs some support, and that's the reason why we go in and support schools. But in terms of our overall mission, it's about using entrepreneurship as a vehicle to empower young people and to help them reach their fullest potential.
Well, you know, you've blown my heart, I have to say. So live on air, I'm going to sponsor 5 of the children that you're going to push forward for myself from the Wahiwala family, and specifically for my father and my past mother. God bless her. Gurmeet Kaur Wahiwala in her name. So please, let's work on that together, and we'll pick the 5 children to make that change. Look, if anybody's listening and you're as touched as I am with the journey that this next generation is getting involved with, I think you should just reach out and get involved with. I think everybody here has thoroughly enjoyed our time together to see this beautiful journey of how Julian Hall has come from Harlesden, and with no detriment to Harlesden, by the way. I'm just saying it's the stereotypicalness that came through at that time, a deprived environment, and possibly still one of the most deprived environments in London. He didn't just sit there and say, life is happening to me. He's changed it and said, life has happened for me. And he's now changing the worlds of thousands, over 15,000 children in the world. This has been a truly substantial, pleasurable, personal journey for myself to be a part of. Julian, thank you very much for being on the Empower Show. God bless you all the way, and good night everybody, and see you next week Tuesday.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.